Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next session of From Nothing, Lorna's story. This session's picking up a little bit after we left off the next morning. As previously, you had a pretty serious fight with a hag after meeting a bunch of people you'd never seen before.
I did.
So this morning, I'd like you to roll me a wisdom saving throw.
Okay. 23.
No problem. You wake up on time, you wake up comfortably, and as you awaken, you see Requiem is alert and looking at you.
Didn't do anything weird in my sleep, did I?
No,
No fights with souls or bad dreams?
not tonight.
Have you noticed the state of the other soul inside me? How's it doing?
Sleeping, it appears.
That is fair, I suppose. I've been kind of nervous about reaching out.
You could attempt to jostle it, I suppose.
I could, but we didn't exactly leave on the best of terms. I was kind of yelling at her and forcing her to remember some pretty terrible things.
Requiem just looks at you.
I know, it's ultimately my choice. I'll think about it. And she'll get up, go eat, and she has some plans for class, so she's gonna get her shit together and go.
Okay. You are in a hurry as you eat breakfast. You basically grab an apple and shove it in your mouth, and you gain 1 temporary hit point,
Woo!
which does replace the temps you already had,
Pink.
because you took a long rest.
Uh-huh. Uh-oh. Is your foundry weird now?
No?
Everything got pushed up like it did in Simics issues.
Oh, good. Go ahead and refresh.
Okay.
The same thing happened for my camera guy.
That's fine now. Okay.
Great. I guess that's just the thing we deal with now that Foundry's been updated.
Cool,
Until
cool.
they fix it. At least it doesn't happen on my end. Whatever. Anyway, as you head to class, I will pull up Tabernac's classroom. You are moving quickly, so there's no chance for anyone to interrupt you.
They try to say hello. She's like, gotta go.
Yes, so it seems. And as you enter early, and Hallowell Halitheth is just getting his own books out, and Callie's right behind you.
I beat you.
It's about time.
Was bound to happen eventually.
I knew I should have gotten my pants on faster. And as you all file in, Tabernac is not up here on the stage yet, so class doesn't begin for at least like 30 minutes. What are you doing?
I've got this spell book I pulled off a hag, and as ill-advised as it seems to learn spells from a hag, I'm gonna learn some spells from a hag.
Okay.
And I want to start working on transcribing blur into my spellbook.
Blur. Okay.
Blur.
That is a second level spell, if I remember
It is.
correctly.
Uh-huh. It'll take
All
4
right.
hours, 100 gold pieces of supplies.
So you begin the process. Over the next 30 minutes, well, you can get maybe 25 gold worth of work in right now.
Okay.
So you sit down, you open the book, you begin to pull out fresh, very, very rich magical parchment. You pull out the ridiculous amounts of ink, and you begin the painstaking process of inscribing the complex arcane runes that will allow you to cast Blur. Roll me an Arcana check.
Okay. Not amazing. 15.
Well enough. Over the 30 minutes, you get the first stage started. You are suddenly interrupted after 30 minutes as Tabernacle says, I am pleased to see you working so diligently. However, we do have things we are to accomplish today.
She'll kind of poutingly push her transcription aside and look expectantly.
Tabernacle he's holding armfuls of scrolls, and he sets one down in front of you and he says, I believe it is time we begin working on your next spell. Are you prepared?
I've generated some ideas in the time since I've made my last one.
Good. Ideas of what flavor? As he begins to pull out various tomes, and he thuds them onto the table, and you see and you see like evocation, transmutation, necromancy, illusion, enchantment, all the various schools of magic, and you see that they are basically primers. They are the sort of books that give you the basics and fundamentals for these different schools of magic, and you think that maybe at a glance, for spells 1 to 3, they probably provide a bonus to whatever it is you're doing.
Nice. She would look at Tabernacle with kind of like a raised eyebrow and say, well, transmutation, of course.
He points, and a mage hand shaped like a little dragon claw pulls the transmutation book over to you. Now, don't hog it. If Halliwell or Callie require the transmutation tome, you are entitled to share it.
Of course. She'll look at the other two. Like, do they even look like they're interested in that school of magic?
Callie already is like reaching for the evocation book.
Yeah.
But Halliwell is looking at you and he says, I wouldn't mind borrowing it when you're finished.
You want to make a transmutation spell?
I have an idea, yes.
I've never asked you, Halliwell. What is your uh, specialty?
Oh, well, he kind of like plays with his fingertips a little bit and he looks a little nervous and he says, so long as you don't laugh, I've always found it interesting to reach divination. He stops himself and just says divination.
I don't know why you think I'd laugh. That's cool.
My family all think it's a waste of time.
Seeing into the future and reading omens is a waste of time.
It can be if you're wrong, or if it's a guess, or if things change, or the list goes on and on.
Well, if you're good enough, then you wouldn't be wrong.
That's the trick. I'm working on it.
I think more power to you. Fuck their expectations.
Thank you. And he looks a little shy that you basically are so confidently just bolstering him.
I'm gonna hype this guy up.
And he just kind of like hums about for a moment and then slides the divination book over to himself.
Yeah. When I'm done, it's all yours.
I appreciate it. Take your time. I still have a few other things I need to hammer out. So, what do you do?
I start trying to put my spell together.
Okay, then we are going to go to the spellcrafting table.
Yay, I like the little table. It looks like I'm Lorna looking at my little desk.
Yes. All right. So, as I pull out this little guy, add a page. Lorna's second spell. Create new page. Alright. So, what spell are you trying to make?
Lorna would like to use her transmutation prowess to affect the heartiness of metal consistency in weapons and armor to make them brittle and potentially break or make armor useless.
Okay. Alrighty then.
Speed up the oxidization process of iron, predominantly.
Alright. So, you're going to use transmutation magic to affect a thing that already happens to these sorts of objects.
Yes.
Go ahead and roll me an Arcana check.
Okay. Pretty good. 21.
21. So, you are capable of casting cantrips, first level and second level spells.
Mm-hmm.
What power are you attempting to create the spell?
Second.
Second level. Okay. Is this an effect that you hope to be permanent? Or is it the sort of effect that you think would be temporary unless the weapon said it's broken or
I
armor is broken?
imagine that it would be permanent, as if she makes a sword brittle, and then the intention is that on its next strike, it has a chance of breaking.
Okay.
So you would need like a smithy to put that shit back together again, or you'd have to buy a
Understood.
new one.
Understood. Okay, so I think for a second level spell, probably would this be touch or ranged?
I mean, touch would limit me immensely,
It
so
would, yeah.
I'd prefer it to be ranged. Lorna walking up to somebody with a sword is not ideal.
Okay, that's fair. So for a second level, say 30 feet is an appropriate range. Item. Object you can see. Alright, so objects cannot make saving throws because they are objects. A sword does not have a constitution modifier. Typically, weapons and things made of metal have a damage threshold, and then they have an amount of hit points based on their durability. What you are doing when you embrittle an object is you are removing its damage threshold and making it vulnerable to, well, damage. So, let's see here. If this is going to be cast on something worn or carried, it will impose a dexterity saving throw. Based off your spell DC.
Mm-hmm.
If it is an object that is not being worn or carried, it just happens.
Because it can't try to evade.
Yeah, there's no getting out of the way if it's like... If it's an anvil that you're trying to make rusty.
Or some chains.
Yes. Spell removes the damage threshold for metallic objects. Spell reduces the maximum HP for metallic objects.
Would it be mundane metallic objects?
Yes, this would not be able
As
to
opposed
affect...
to like
This would not be able to
adamantine.
affect... No. That would be... Maybe at higher levels. But for now, let's focus on where we are.
Iron,
Second level.
steel, copper, brass,
Yes.
basic bitch stuff.
If object is a weapon, the next time it hits a target, has a chance to break.
Is it a percentage chance?
No. It would be... Basically, the weapon would make a Constitution saving throw versus your spell DC, but it doesn't have a con modifier, so it's just a flat roll.
And so 10 or below, or under 10, it would break.
What's your spell DC?
15.
Okay, so a sword would have to roll a 15 or better, or it will break.
I see.
if object is armor, the next time it is hit has a chance to break.
Same thing.
Yes.
Armor rolls a 15 or better, it doesn't break, but if it
Correct.
breaks, is it useless?
So the thing about armor is if it's broken, it depends on how it breaks, but for most part, yes, it doesn't give you an AC bonus anymore. But it also doesn't limit you. So if you're wearing medium armor and it breaks, you still have your dexterity bonus for AC and such. If object is armor, the next time it's hit has a chance to break equal to your spell DC. If an object breaks while under the effects of this spell, it is the effects become permanent. I'm going to say the way the spell is going to work is it's going to be a concentration spell for 1 minute. You focus on an object, you embrittle it, and during that minute, if it breaks, you no longer have to concentrate. It's broken. If you end concentration early, the embrittlement ends. But if you concentrate on it for the full minute, it becomes permanently rusted.
Okay. But if I dropped it, it would be fine.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like the transmutation magic is building up over that minute until it focuses.
Finalizes.
All right. Attacks to destroy an object under the effects of this spell are considered... No, I'm sorry. I gotta reword that. Objects that are attacked while under the effects of this spell are considered vulnerable to that damage.
I like that. Help me break down metal doors.
It could, yeah.
Or support beams if they're thin enough.
So you can compound this with other things, like thunder damage typically does. Typically things have, like an object or a structure, has disadvantage on saving throws against thunder damage. This spell would also make them take double damage from those sorts of things.
Nice. So in tandem, we could break down a building. If me and Sagona, like I weakened a support beam and she rocked its world with thunder.
If object is neither worn nor carried, this spell can affect no larger than a 5-foot cube of material.
Fair enough.
Because that's a lot of metal.
Could the range could the amount increase if it's upcasted? Or would the quality of metal that it can affect change if it's upcasted?
I think that as you're making the spell now, that is what you're going to have to decide. Is if you want it to affect higher quality materials or more material.
I think I would rather it affect higher quality materials.
Okay. It's a second level spell, so we'll say at 4th level... No. Let's roll for this. Roll me Arcana.
Okay. I'm gonna use an inspiration.
That's a good call.
Okay. 17.
Okay. If this... At higher levels, casting this spell at 4th level can affect adamantine and mithril objects. At 7th level, can affect magical objects of an uncommon nature.
As opposed to, like, you know, a legendary sword of yore.
At ninth level, can affect magical objects of very rare nature.
I like that it's not just made obsolete when Lorna gets to higher levels and people are starting to have better and more magical gear.
I fucked up the scaling on this. Excuse me. It needs to be at 6th and at 8th. It's every 2 levels, not randomly 3. Okay, what is the name of the spell?
I believe it's going to be Lorna's instant embrittlement.
Lorna's instant embrittlement. Okay. I will make the spell in D&D Beyond.
Woo!
As over today...
I'm gonna ruin someone's armor and they're gonna be so mad.
You're gonna roll me an Arcana check to see how long it takes you to inscribe this spell down on a scroll.
Okay. I think I'm gonna... Is that like my whole day right there?
It basically means you spend the rest of the class making the spell scroll.
I have 2 more inspirations. I collected them during the crossover episode.
Is this worth it to you?
I don't know. Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll just take it. I'll just spend the rest of the day doing this.
Okay. After the first couple of hours, you are finished with the transmutation book, which does help you with specifically the crystalline structure of iron and copper, which is difficult to understand, and the book explains to you how you can affect it magically. Once you're done with the book, you slide it over to Halliwell, and as you finish, you basically spend the rest of the day working out how the spell will function, and at the end of the day, you have a spell scroll of Lorna's instant embrittlement. You still have to inscribe it in your book, but you have the scroll.
Okay, let me add that to my list of spells that I need to inscribe and how much time and blah 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 it's gonna take.
Okay.
Instant. 2 hours, 50 gold pieces. Being a wizard is expensive.
Also, here is your new spell.
Yay!
You can also access this in the journal page at any point if you want to check it or look at it.
I love it.
As you have been working diligently for the entire class day, and finally you have this parchment that's covered in little ink spatters at the edges and little corrections all over it that have been whited out and re-inked over. You have this completed spell scroll, and Tabernac is looking over your shoulder, and he says, A spell that renders an enemy weapon useless, but
Hopefully.
has a creative application as well. I think this is a mighty fine spell, Lorna.
Lorna looks so proud of herself because her dad just complimented her. She doesn't think that was me.
Okay.
She's not like, Daddy gave me a compliment. Pen is
Okay.
thinking that. Lorna's just like, yeah.
I was like, how the hell would Tabernac react
No,
to that?
no. Lorna's just like, woo, he complimented me. She's just beaming with pride.
I think this is a fine piece of work, and you should begin the process of inscribing it immediately. I'd hate for you to accidentally cast the spell off the scroll and have to do all of this work again.
I understand. Yes, I'll probably do that tonight because I want to have a skirmish tomorrow, if that's all right.
Well, the Fall Festival is this Sunday.
I know, and I am a little nervous.
Well, if you have this scroll in your arsenal, or rather this spell, I'm sure you shall make some poor fighter extremely upset.
That's the idea. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good thinking. But it is 6 o'clock in the evening,
Hmm.
so might as well get started.
Right. Can I just take some of the material I need to transcribe this, and I can just pay you for it, so I don't have to go all the way down to town to get these supplies?
Roll me a persuasion check.
Mhm. Or it's not amazing. 13.
It is normally against my policy to allow students to take anything from my classroom. But as this is a deal you are attempting to make, I will accommodate. And Tabernac will make that arrangement with you.
She pays the 50 gold pieces it'll take to transcribe it.
He gives you the supplies you need.
Woohoo! Remove. Okay, she's gonna go to dinner, and while she's eating, she's gonna work on transcribing her spell because she's very proud of it.
Okay. It is 6 in the evening. Hold on a minute. There's no guarantee these individuals are out here.
But I love them.
That's good. Let me go ahead and roll to see if anybody notices you or if anybody happens to be out and about right now. All right, roll me a d10.
Okay. 1.
1. Okay. As you are seated, first and foremost, dinner is stew. A very rich and hearty chicken stew that
Yum.
smells delicious and is as such, as you gain 7 temporary hit points that you can use to
Is it
replace.
chicken stroganoff?
Sure.
Yeah.
As you are
Yummy.
sitting at the table and you are working, there is the of the stool next to you, and the smell of linseed oil and what is maybe pine. And you glance up and you see there is the orange-haired bard who is sitting next to you.
Norre?
Norre.
Oh, shit.
What you got there?
Oh, I am working on a spell that I made.
Yeah? Can
Yeah.
I see?
Uh, Lorna will try not to look skeptical and, like, sure, her instant expectation is how would she know anything about this, but she's gonna try to keep her face schooled, not to be rude, and just kind of push the parchment over to let her take a look at it.
Norre turns the parchment to look at it as she spoons a mouthful of stew into her mouth. She's proficient in Arcana.
Hmm.
She kind of like furrows her brow and nods, and she says, "Do that to my sword, and I'll shank you with it."
I don't think it would work, and not that it wouldn't work because it should work, but rather, if you're fast enough, you might be able to get out of the way, and I think you're pretty quick on your feet.
I am at that.
This is more for the really ironclad type, the bulky ones, the heavy hitters, the stand in one place kind of people.
Oh, guys like Durakan.
Yeah, or stoic.
Don't let him hear you say that. He never goes anywhere without that sword.
Is it sentimental?
I don't know.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. Like, I don't care if I ruin a bandit's sword, but if someone here, I ruin their, like, maybe it's their father's armor from some great battle. Oh boy. Well,
Maybe do a little research before you fight someone like that.
I just have to get everybody's life story first.
Yeah, just poke him up and be like, "Hey, that sword you've always got, does that mean anything to you?" And see what he says.
Would you be mad if it suddenly rusted to dust?
I mean,
Oh boy, I didn't even think about that.
here's a guarantee, though. if whatever they're wearing or wielding has, and she like gestures to the Maryguard paisley around her sleeves, it's probably safe to break.
Right. You can just get that replaced by Sekko, right?
Mm-hmm. I
That's her
mean,
name,
she'll
right?
probably hate you. Yeah, Seka.
Okay, I called her something not right once, and I don't think she's ever forgiven me for it.
You seem like the sort of person that happens to a lot.
Lorna looks like she droops just a little bit. I have a pretty good memory, but for things that aren't people's names or how to be polite at the right times.
She like wipes her mouth. What is your deal? Where are you from?
I was gonna say you're gonna have to be a little more specific than that.
You have the attitudes of a noble, but you talk like a commoner.
It, kind of a weird marriage of both. If you couldn't tell, and she kind of gestures to her ears as if implying that the elf part of her is probably the noble one, and the human part of her is probably the more common one.
She's like watching you gesture, and she points to your hand, and she says, "Did you piss off some nobles?"
I don't think noble is the right word, but I definitely pissed people off in my time.
I believe that, but I mean, specifically, did you try to steal something, or
Oh no. Um, no, I did not try to steal something. It's a really long story, really.
did you touch someone you shouldn't? Back home, they take hands off for that.
For touch? For just like a pat on the back?
If it's not wanted.
Oh, are you implying that I look like the type to do that? She looks just a little offended.
She raises an eyebrow.
No, I did not do that.
Roll me an insight check.
Oh boy. Pretty good. 24.
She's fucking with you.
Oh. Lorna just kind of laughs out of her nose, you know, where he goes, you exhale fast.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that.
You don't
Some
have
people,
to. You don't have to tell me your whole story. It's neat looking.
it is, isn't it? Like, I'm almost not upset about losing the hand because, and she kind of gestures to the Banasite lines going through it. There's magic in it too.
I can tell that.
Yeah,
What's it let you do?
makes me a little bit tougher to hit, which I really need sometimes.
Is that what you were doing when we were fighting?
Yes.
That looked cool. I wanted to ask you if that was some sort of illusion or something.
No, it just makes me less soft, which she kind of just vaguely gestures to herself, you know.
You're gonna have to work on getting quicker.
It's I've always kind of not been able to. The whole light on your feet and deft fingers have not really been my forte.
Why don't you just train?
I'm like on the list of things I have to do, not tripping over my own feet somehow isn't a high one, and now that I'm saying it out loud, it feels like it should be.
You're training to be a mercenary, right?
Um, in a manner of speaking, yes. Part of a team of mercenaries, and maybe other people on that team can kind of shore up my weaknesses.
Yeah. It's all magic and nothing else matters, right?
No, it's not entirely true.
She's like raising an eyebrow at you.
Magic can really compensate for some of these detriments, you know? Like I'm not strong, but if I learned telekinesis, I could lift an elephant.
Have you heard the story of Hardyworth?
She just kind of blinks.
Roll a history check.
Hardyworth history.
Yeah.
15.
It's a name you remember. You think it's some sort of hero, but you're not sure what they're heroic for. What you do know is that they were renowned as being very magical. Their legends are always doused in some powerful spells of some kind.
The Lorna will blink and be like some heroic sorcerer.
Wizard.
Wizard, all right, okay.
He's from the Drake's Shore.
I think you said you were from there, something like that, right?
Yeah, good memory.
Wizard.
Well, do you know why he was so Famous.
Was he really strong?
No,
Fast?
he was very fast.
Fast wizard.
His spells were extremely amazing, and he could banish entire swaths of demonic armies back to the hells. But he was quick about it. So nimble were his exploits that assassins tried to surprise him, and without magic at all, he tripped them both and sent them back into the abyss.
That's pretty cool.
As a mercenary, take it from me. And she, like, gestures to the blades that she's wearing on her belt. Magic is helpful, but when the shit hits the fan, you have to get out of the way.
I will admit, I don't typically see bards with blades, or so many blades. I worked with a bard recently, and I don't know if I trust a blade in his hands.
Tam?
Oh, I was gonna say, oh, you know him, but bards. Yes, you
Yeah,
probably
there's
know him.
only two others, and Yethron, well, I wouldn't cross him. He's a null.
Ah, yeah, that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
No, Tam didn't seem like the type to want to hurt people in general, let alone with a blade.
No, he's a good fellow, but he's naive.
That's the way to put it.
But if you think that magic can solve all your problems too, then you're naive too.
I will admit, I have my faults as well.
It's not a fault, it's an oversight.
That's not a fault?
No. It's not a problem until it becomes one, and you're still in training, so
So
maybe,
acknowledge it, work on it, make it
Mhm.
not a problem.
yeah, get yourself a little quicker. Because, while that magic might protect you from little things, I don't think I'd have any problem stabbing you if I wanted to.
But if you stabbed me, it would hurt you.
Right.
Not
sure.
emotionally. I'm saying I have a thing. I have a thing for this. Maybe we should
Oh.
spar sometime. Because it would be really cool to show you this thing. Because I was stabbed once and it almost killed me. But then it gave me this idea and I made my first spell off of it. So
Typically in sparring, I don't stab people. At least not on purpose.
but in this case, I would let you because then it would, I could show you
Oh,
the.
you'd let me stab you.
That's right. I'd let you stab me.
Nori's like raised an eyebrow and she's smiling and she says, "Okay, hotshot. Maybe we have to try this out."
Yeah.
I wonder if Persh is fine with students using the training room for not fighting monsters or entire teams.
1-on-1.
Yeah, I've never asked. I've never thought about it.
We could. I'm also planning on training tomorrow, so maybe we can kind of do a rematch. It wouldn't be 1-on-1, but you still get the chance to stab me.
You want to scrimmage again with Dato throwing rocks at your head?
Well, I've kind of unfinished business since I lost, right?
She, like, waves her finger back and forth and she says, "If you were a little faster, you might not have taken that bludgeon to the skull."
I think it all went to shit because I couldn't put you to sleep when I wanted to. I was so mad about that and a little impressed.
That's a risky spell. That's a hard one to land on people.
But it was so close.
Sure. But it wasn't. It wasn't enough. And that's the sort of spell that if you're banking on it, you're bound to fail.
Shit. It feels like you have a lot of experience fighting, huh?
I grew up around it. What do you know about the Drake Shore?
What does Lorna know about the Drake Shore?
Roll a history check.
Quite a bit, I think. I'm 19.
A 19. Okay, roll me a D100.
38.
A 38. Okay, hold on. I will say you do know some things about the Drake Shore. You know that you remember reading that it's a place where the veil between the prime material and the abyss is thin.
Oh, that explains Hardy Worth, Hardy Quick, Hardy Boys,
Hardyworth.
Hardy having to banish swaths of demons.
You know that it is where the Drake Guard is.
Mhm.
The Drake Guard is a collection of mortals, typically lots of Dragonborn, but humans are a big part of it. And the Blade Maidens, which are a singing, sword fighting group.
I think Lorna's putting some pieces together.
Yeah. They reside primarily in the Drake Shores, and they defend it from demonic incursion. Demons will occasionally randomly pass through it, and someone has to deal with them. And the Drake Guard and the Blade Maidens take care of them.
I think
That's just kind of what you know off the cuff.
with that knowledge in her head and then kind of putting together Nore's, her persona,
Her whole deal.
yeah, her whole shtick, Lorna will look at her and say, "Oh well, from what I do know, I'm imagining you were pretty familiar with the Blade Maidens."
She nods. My sisters were.
Sounds like, tough, but incredibly cool.
We do it for honor, and it's the right thing to do, not to be cool.
But that makes it cool.
It was very cool. She
Right?
nods.
What an awesome name, Blade Maiden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She kind of smirks and then eats some more stew.
hmm
Roll me an insight check.
Whoa. Decent. 17.
Hold on. She rolled a 3.
Yes.
Something about this subject bothers her. You see hurt in her eyes. She's clearly not making eye contact as she's focusing on the stew.
Oh, shit. Lorna's like, oh, maybe I should change the subject.
Do you say that out loud?
No. She's more tech than I do. Maybe. She would maybe lean forward and say, how about we see if Persh lets us more?
Don't you? You have a spell to finish there, don't you?
I got all night.
All
I want to see
right.
what you're made of.
Huh. Fine.
Maybe you'll see what I'm made of.
And she ups the stew bowl and finishes it off. Let's go talk to him.
All right.
So you leave the mess hall and you find Persh out front at his desk. He has a bowl of stew that he's nursing while he's also looking over papers. And as you approach, he says, Lorna? Nore?
Mhm.
How can I help you two? You seem to be on business.
We were wondering if the training room could be used for one-on-one sessions.
To spar, correct?
Yes, of course.
That can be arranged, so long as there's no one vying for it. One moment. And he pulls out a ledger. I need you to roll me a D100.
Okay. Whee! 34.
As he's looking through the ledger, he says, Alright, there's no one scheduled for the next hour if you're trying to use it now.
Sure.
Alright. Now, I'm not going to be shutting the portcullis. So, you know the rules, and I will be paying attention.
No killing each other.
Also, please, no fraternizing, no using the training room for anything other than what it's intended for, and no inappropriate behavior.
I think Lorna's face would go red when she realizes the implication.
Nora just smirks and says, Really, Persh?
I'm imagining it's happened before.
It has. Alright, door's open. Don't hurt yourselves.
I think that's the idea. She'll kind of mumble to herself.
Nora follows you into the training room.
Oh, she's gonna kick my ass.
Probably.
Boy, howdy. I got
What have you
nothing.
done?
I'm gonna, as we're entering activate my mage armor.
Okay, so as we described before, activating your mage armor is very cool. It looks like small porcelain blue and white scales just across your arms and every exposed bit of skin. Let me go ahead and pull this open. Why is there a piece of wall? Hold on. How do I... Let me... Just a random chunk of wall in the middle of the room.
It's a wall.
Okay. Okay, anyway. So as Nora, like, steps out into the training room and steps across from you, she's, like, circling you, and she pulls a rapier out, and she's, like, bending it a little bit, like, holding the tip of it, and she looks at you, and she says, "Now, before anything happens, what are you hoping for?"
Honestly, I've never really been in a one-on-one fight. So if my back is to the wall, I'd like to see how fucked I am.
Then let's get started. And she, like, holds her rapier up towards you. How does Lorna prepare herself for a fight? What does she look like?
Standing there like an idiot. She's gonna be thinking to Requiem, who's probably a snake on her belt, on her waist. As soon as she charges for us, I want you to turn back into a dog and just go right for her face.
Understood. Well, what do you look like? Like, what does she take a stance? Does she pull out a book? What does she do?
Her arcane focus right now is a wand.
Wand of the War Mage.
Yeah, it's the wand of the War Mage. So she'd take that out in her right hand, and her prosthetic would, I don't know, be glowing in blue and ready to cast spells of a violent nature.
So
like, she does a cool Sailor Moon pose.
As you do that, Norray just, like, looks at you, and it seems like she's waiting, and she says,
"Are you gonna let me go first?"
Where's your weapon?
I am the weapon. Also the stick.
Norray, like, gets up uncomfortably close to you.
Ooh.
And she's, like, as she's right in your face, she says, "Okay, and if I were to run away from you, what would you do?" And she, like, darts back immediately.
Yes! Okay, let's see what I'm gonna do.
She's provoking an attack of opportunity.
Oh man, I don't really have any touch spells. Shocking Grasp, that's a touch spell.
Do you have Warcaster?
God damn it, no.
So you can punch her.
I'm not gonna punch her. That's low class.
What's your strength modifier?
There isn't one.
It's just a flat number? Okay, your punch will deal 1 damage if it hits. Go ahead and roll a punch attack.
Let's do 12.
You miss.
What are you gonna do? I just swing like this wild haymaker that does nothing.
Do you...
Just gonna find this very funny.
Nore will, like, laugh at you as you go to punch her, and she just... Okay. She steps back up to you, and alarmingly fast, she reaches down to your belt, and you feel like a tug, and then she pulls the dagger out that you wear on your belt, and she hands it to you.
Thanks.
She then taps you on the head with her fingers and says, "Not everything's magic."
But it could be.
Could it?
Yeah.
Then get better at it. In the meantime, stab me.
Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna try to swing at her.
Roll an attack.
Oh my god, worse. 8.
She does not even attempt. She doesn't even need to parry it. She just, like, leans to the side, and the dagger just misses. Lorna, you're trying to be a mercenary.
Uh-huh. A magic one.
She laughs again. I can do magic too. You've seen it. She darts in really close with her rapier. And I've lost my mouse. Okay. That's a 15 to hit.
Shield.
Okay. As the rapier comes up, the pommel, she like brings the rapier up and twists it around for the pommel to bash it into your face, and it's like inches from your face when the shield stops it. And she brings the rapier back behind her head, and she says, "Very good."
Is it my turn?
She will use. She's a swords bard, so suddenly she slashes out again with her left hand, and a dagger you didn't see is coming up towards you.
She's so sharp.
Yes. That's a 19 to hit.
Shit! God damn it, that's going over my shield AC.
She doesn't actually stab you. She brings it right up to your cheek, and then just boop, hits you with the pommel of the dagger.
Lorna's very flustered.
And then she steps back. Now, as she thinks she's made her point, you can roll initiative.
Oh, good. Good for once.
Yeah, you
I was
go
excited
first.
to see what it was plus the modifier, but there is no modifier.
All right, Lorna.
She's really gearing up to prove herself right now.
She's made space.
Mm-hmm. Jesus, these are really the only spells I have. Okay. She's gonna back up 30 feet to get some fucking distance from this lady. She's gonna cast Ice Knife.
Okay, roll your spell attack.
Natural 20.
Okay, you crit with the fucking ice knife.
I also need to reload my... It broke the thing again as soon as I rolled.
Go ahead, hit refresh. Yeah, it also broke my camera guy.
Not Vinny.
Yeah, I think ice knife, well, it potentially could just end the fight immediately.
That would be so funny. But probably not gonna happen. Roll damage. Come on, damage. It does not want to do so from Foundry.
Try again. Why isn't it? Okay, so the damage is... Okay, it's 2d... Okay. The target takes 1d10 piercing damage. Go ahead, just roll me a d10.
Okay.
And then we add 10 to the total.
6.
Okay, so it dealt 16 points of piercing damage plus 2d6 that she has to make a dex save for.
Which is pretty decent.
She is, but still. She rolled a 10, so she fails.
Nope.
Okay, so roll me 2d6.
Is that doubled as well?
Well, it doesn't matter whether it is or not,
Jeez.
because you knock her unconscious.
She was... Lorna was like, okay, you've had your fun, you've made your point. Magic.
Yeah, you win the duel.
Oh my god. So, like, as soon as she falls, Lorna's like, oh fuck, I didn't think that would happen. And she's gonna sprint back up to her. And, like,
so the ice knife, it's a crit.
oh shit.
So the ice knife hit her, like, basically the only place that it could be is square in the chest, right where her heart is. And it is dissolving rapidly because it's an ice knife. And you see that the magic of the healing room is patching the skin up. But I need you to make a medicine check.
Oh my god, did I kill her? An 18.
She is unconscious but not stable.
Oh shit. How do I fix this?
Well,
I don't have a healing potion. Oh no.
you could search her for one.
I'll do that.
Roll investigation.
I want to kill Nora. I just said I wouldn't. Oh my
As you panic,
god!
hold on.
I have
I need to roll.
two inspirations.
Okay. That death save was successful.
Ah!
You can search. You can keep searching.
I want to search her again.
Go ahead.
Or it's just like, oh shit, oh fuck, oh fuck. No, hold on. Oh, that's a lot better. 23. Her
Yeah.
hands are really. She didn't have deft fingers to begin with, so the first try, she can't even get the buttons on her cloak.
You've, as you intensely search Nore's belt, finally hidden behind the cloak of leathers that she wears on the back of her belt, you see there are 2 vials that you recognize to be standard healing potions.
Okay, one's going right in her.
Okay, that's another action. I have to roll another death save before you can do
Oh
that.
my god.
Okay, that's a failed death save. Go ahead and you feed her the healing potion.
Was the damage like over her hit point maximum, or was it just so brutal?
You didn't declare non-lethal. It was a piercing
Ah,
attack. So,
Jesus.
and you crit.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I feed her the health potion.
Okay. The 10 healing, you watch as the wound that was gently just leaking blood down onto the sand beside her closes. And Nore,
Lorna's just pale white, like all the color is away from her face. She just looks wide-eyed. She's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?"
yeah, I'm good.
No, you're not good. You were bleeding out.
Oh, but I'm fine now. And she
I
sits up.
guess. Holy shit.
Well, all right. Thanks for... Was that one of mine?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't have anything on me, and I didn't want you to die.
No, that's fair. Thanks. And she just kind of... She looks dazed as she's sitting in this room.
I think I I I understood and respect the point you were trying to make with the whole fighting and like the martial is as important as the magic, but I might have gotten my temper because of, and I think I threw it a little too hard.
Ooh, well, if this was a real fight, I'd hope you go for a kill. She, like, looks down and she frowns at her armor and she says,
Sorry,
well, Sekka's gonna have to fix that.
she's gonna hate me real soon.
Well, you did aim for the heart.
It really wasn't my intention.
She kind of, like, softly smiles and says, it should have been, if this is a fight. So,
You booped me on the face with the pommel of your rapier. You didn't even hurt me on purpose. You could have.
I was trying to make a point. But I was going to try and deal damage when I got up to you. But you've stopped that from happening, so I guess we'll have to wait till the skirmish tomorrow. Because I think I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
She, like, blinks. I need you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Oh boy. 22.
Okay. As Nore stands up, she coughs, and a very large, just globule of blood just out onto the sand. Yikes. Alright. And she will reach into her... Like, she slides the rapier into its sheath, and in the same motion draws a small harp that she just does a quick strum. She heals herself.
That was beautiful.
Thanks. I have to be quick about it.
Can I just insight check her? Like, I don't. She was already kind of feeling weird about the whole Blade Maiden conversation, and I think I'm worried about how this might have affected her emotionally.
Yeah, roll an insight check.
Oh, not amazing. 9.
I'll roll for her, but I think she has to roll real bad for you to see anything. Bard. Yeah. She can't. You can't read her.
I think Lorna would just stand up and kind of say, I was. I know I challenged you, but I was really genuinely not expecting much out of my end in a one-on-one fight against you.
Well, she kind of solemnly tucks the rapier away, like she was gonna pull it out to check it. But as she slides it back into the sheath and she tucks the harp away and she looks at you, she just kind of shrugs and she says, "You're a wizard, and the stories have always shown that magic is powerful. I know that. Magic is scary. I've done some pretty crazy things with magic myself. Sorry for goading you. But my whole point of this was just I wanted to show you that you shouldn't rely entirely on magic for everything. But the things that magic are good for, it's very, very good for. I imagine you're not the hardiest of people. And when I got to you, I was planning on whipping my harp out and blasting you with a thunder wave. So, because that was the other side of the lesson: is well, magic isn't everything; it's a tool you should use. But I'm not an instructor, obviously. So, these are just the sorts of things my sister taught me. She then, like, pats you on the shoulder and says, "You okay?
Yeah,
You look like you've seen a ghost."
I felt like I was about to. It just. I think what I can really respect about you, Nora, is that you seem to have a lot of intention. I don't know if restraint is the right word, but you know when to pull your punches and when not to, and I think I don't have that yet. And it's something I need to learn.
It comes with confidence and training. And really, all I was going to say is, whether we sparred or not, I was going to say just maybe go hit the fighter's classroom or go out in the courtyard and
do some push-ups.
No, you don't want physical training. You want to practice balance. You know, getting quicker.
Sure. Go for a jog.
You really have no idea, do you?
No, how about maybe we meet up sometimes if you're into it? Give me a few less dangerous, violent pointers like today.
Roll me a persuasion check. Or a deception check, I guess, whatever is appropriate.
24.
You're asking me for help.
Sure.
Well, on the days like today when I'm not down at the taverns, sure.
You just let me know when works for you.
I mean, you'll see me around.
Yeah, I hope so.
You know where the Bard's classroom is, right?
I have not been there personally.
Just look for the door that's really, really extravagant.
And loud, I imagine.
Yeah. Tally's loud.
So is Tam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, like, Nori kind of adopts a weird look on her face, like, as she's, like, remembering something. And then she looks at you and she says, "Nothing personal, right?"
Is she implying, like, nothing personally between us after this whole event, or?
Yeah. Like, as she's, like, gesturing to her chest.
No, of course not.
I thought not. All right. I need to go talk to Seka about armor.
Sure.
Thanks for the beating. And Nore will walk out of the training room.
Lorna's just a little flabbergasted, like, holy fuck. Before she kind of slowly trudges out, too.
Okay. You are back out in the main hall. As you leave, Persh is, like, seated at the desk, and he looks up and he says, "And how did that go?"
Very educational.
He raises an eyebrow and he says, "Maybe next time don't aim for the heart."
I wasn't even thinking, and that was obviously the problem.
Well, that could be a good thing in the right circumstance, but against other students,
Yep, not the right time or place. I understand.
it happens. These things happen. Maybe also, you should grow a little bit of respect for your power.
Right.
I know sometimes it can feel like everything you try doesn't work. But when it does, people die.
I just hope it's the people I want to die, not the ones I want to live.
That is where that judgment comes in.
Yeah.
Well, till next time. And he pulls open the book.
Hopefully tomorrow. I'd really like to set up a skirmish.
I remember.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Persh. Good night.
Good night. And he's like not looking at you anymore.
Yeah.
He's looking at the book.
Lorna's gonna go to her room and kind of somberly finish transcribing her custom spell.
The sparring and interaction with Nore took about 30 minutes. So you do not risk exhaustion by transcribing the spell. But at the end of the night, as you settle in after doing so, I need you to roll me another wisdom saving throw.
It's bound to happen eventually.
So
That's
it
7.
was. As you lay down. Well.
I know this place.
You do. Darkness takes you as you fall asleep. It is alarming how quickly you fall asleep. As though sleep was just waiting for you and you open the door. And as you open your eyes, you're confused. Because the world is dark. Purple and blue and violet is illuminated by greenish fungus lining the walls, ascending to impossibly high heights you cannot really fathom. The air is cold, thick, and smells of rock and water and blood. And your ears ring with malcontentment, of people muttering and jeering, of whispering and of sharp tongues as conversation happens around and below you. You are standing amongst others you know. You think so. Anyway, they feel familiar to you. But there is a feeling of pressure that is at the back of your mind, and with some self-awareness you realize it is a cautiousness you know keeps you alive. If you make a mistake, or if you trust the wrong person with the wrong thing, everything will be over for you. You stand accused. The booming voice rings out from the far side of this space, and you realize it is not pointed at you. In fact, you've heard this voice say this exact phrase before, and you remember where you are. This is judgment. Natole Tiscoel, you stand accused of treachery. Your efforts to sabotage and infiltrate the matriarch Lohidia's house have been confirmed. You hear the cries and you spot them. 20 figures knelt in front of a house. The house is enormous, a manor, ornately built and carved by Duragar slaves with mirrored color glass and brilliant steps that give the manor an imposing yet elegant look. It's an ancient house, one you've seen many times, one with lots of history around it, and the figures are clearly chained together, in a circle, with one figure chained in a standing position in the center of them, and it is this figure that a magical light shines upon them from above. Not that you would need it. Down here, you can see clearly every individual as if they were in brilliant daylight. The standing figure is begging, pleading, but her eyes are muted, her cries are muted. She is bound, and her mouth is covered, but you remember, Nat Ole Tiscoel. She's always been ambitious and skilled in the ways of conjuration, but no matter. Such a waste. Your crime's consequence is the cleansing of your house. It has been decided. There is a thunderous applause across the crowd as a sudden, thunder-like crack fills the air, and the red light of summoning magic fills the region. You watch as 3 massive demons, bestial and horrible, surge into existence. You humor for a moment which summoners volunteered for the task of today's sentencing, as the honor of such things is always fought for by the scholars of the mages. Regardless, the choice of demons, you recognize a Baelor, followed by a pair of Glabrezu. It's eloquent, as the fiery demon that was the Baelor with massive wings and a flaming whip laughs and begins to slowly scorch and lash away at the manor from the outside, while the pair of Glabrezu, with their 4 arms and massive blades at the ends of each, begin to use their multiple limbs to slowly and painfully rend the family of criminals apart, one at a time. The crowd cheers as the sentencing occurs, and you watch it all. It was part of the process, of course, and a necessary one. The air of the crowd grows more and more excited. And you know why. Because after a sentencing and a cleansing of a house, everyone in attendance would take part in the joining. As you watched and felt that anticipation build, you smiled as the last survivor, Nat Ole herself, was rended apart from the middle, and the crowd cheered and jeered. As their manor burns, already members of the crowd were turning and finding partners to embrace with. The only moment in time when everyone may very well be truly equal, down here. And your eyes begin to dart between possible suitors. On this precipice, the men were always working as servitors and soldiers, lesser mages and scholars, but one struck your eye as suitable. One of the lesser enchanters, a slender and young fellow, noticed your eyes on him, and he nervously bowed his head. His name is Matho? Perhaps? It doesn't really matter. To deny you, while not a crime, would have been truly a foolish thing to do.
Oh boy.
Suddenly, as you feel your steps on the stone lead you toward this enchanter, they suddenly splash in mud and leaves crackle beneath your feet, and you realize you're back in the forest. You look to your left and you see Lily. She's standing. She's not hiding her face. She doesn't look grief-struck. She's standing tall, not proud, but properly. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I apologize that you had to see that.
Um, I imagine that's happened more than once that you've seen, and now I've seen.
As these memories unfold and I remember them, I realize you do not see all of the ones that I remember, but the ones that you do are typically powerful. Perhaps
What
forming.
what made that special? Something that happened to many, many times.
I don't know. I think it was because I was in a position of power, and that felt new to me.
I see. That was a horrible place to be,
Yes.
but you didn't seem to think so at the time. It was just another day.
An unfortunate truth.
What
I think
changed?
I think perhaps it is better that we see that for what it is now, as opposed to whatever delusions I was under then. I don't know what changed. I don't know what was the turning point. I suspect Malcolm.
Malcolm.
Her voice cracked a little as she says the name, but she remains poised.
Right. She didn't have a breakdown like she's had in the past, so I
Correct.
consider this growth. Um, I can imagine you're probably right.
I awoke today to watch as we nearly killed a person. And
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
What did you feel?
I was honestly, I was ashamed that my magic didn't do what I intended. It was stronger than I meant it to be. I didn't have full control over it. That I could make a mistake like that.
And did you feel anything for this Nore?
I didn't want her to die. I have no reason to want to hurt anyone. Well, I have no reason to want to hurt her. It would have been a huge embarrassment and a mistake, and I would have carried it with me forever.
The embarrassment of your spell failing, or the embarrassment of killing a friend?
Can't it be both?
It can, but what matters is the priority of how you think of them. As we grow and our magic grows under our control, we will still make mistakes. And mistakes are learning experiences. But already you differ from I did.
How's that?
In that memory I felt no compassion, no empathy, only arrogance, amusement that Natole failed to hide her true intentions and was caught. I knew her. We had worked together before. She was a skilled caster, a wise tactician. Only she didn't notice when I detected her thoughts and knew what she intended.
You did that.
Yes,
What did you get out of it?
I don't remember. Something I was pleased about.
Maybe a promotion?
I suspect that is likely. Or perhaps a position of more power in my own house. I don't know. I do remember the matriarch was not one to fuck with.
No, I imagine not.
She sighs as she looks at you, and she says, as I look back on that memory, through your eyes, I feel repugnant.
Because you lacked empathy.
I suppose. That would make sense. Or perhaps it's something more. Perhaps it is simply because I'm looking through it at the eyes of a youth. I don't know how old I am in this memory. I don't know how long I've been there. I don't know much.
I'm gonna guess you probably still don't remember your name, do you?
She shakes her head. I am sorry.
I understand.
Remembering Malcolm was impactful, like a tree falling in a forest on me. I realize I may have neglected my promise to you that I would help.
I understand. I saw the state you were in. I understand that he meant a lot to you.
Malcolm Aldenar.
Aldenar?
Yes, that was his name.
Is that all you remember about him?
He was a half-elf druid.
I thought he might have been a natural practitioner.
Yes, he was very powerful for one. Sometimes I think he meant to get himself captured.
Why?
He would take lashings as if they were foolish.
Like they didn't hurt?
Yes, or they were a waste of his time, or the punishments didn't matter. Always it looked as though he was looking on me with forgiveness. Even though I'd never asked for it.
Were you the one who administered the punishment?
Once. I was the one who dealt him that scar.
On his face?
Yes. That was a mistake. I never did it again.
And at some point you left with him. For him.
Well, clearly. You see she, tries to shake away that particular memory like a spider web. Yes. I suspect without his existence, you would not exist.
No. Probably not.
And I likely would have died to some assassin.
Or someone would have turned on you and you would have been torn apart by demons.
Exactly.
It seems like the way of things down there. You're on top until you're not.
They always loved their demons. There was a whole school for it. I remember that. Aspiring young mages that had a kinship beyond the veils, they could learn how to summon greater and greater demons.
That wasn't your forte, though.
I had no interest. That was not my strength.
What was your strength? Do you remember?
She smirks.
Was it always necromancy?
She scowls and shakes her head. No. Of course not. Although I fear if I tell you, your opinion of me might change.
Would that be a bad thing?
Yeah, it might.
My opinion of you has changed many times since we've first began speaking to each other.
I do remember I was an expert practitioner in transmutation magic.
I think Lorna kind of can't help it, and she kind of grins a little bit. How is that a bad thing?
I suspected you didn't want to be anything like me.
You remember when I said my opinion of you has changed?
I do. You did just say that.
Yeah. I did. What I mean to say is that there was a time where I didn't want to be anything like you.
I see. You see, she smiles. One that actually cracks the hard exterior around her eyes, and she smiles with her eyes, too. You think perhaps it's the first genuine one you've seen on her face in a while. If I remember anything else about this, I will tell you. But I do recall spending a lot of time turning gems into other things. You see, she kind of, her eyes mist over and she blinks. I suppose now, knowing what I know, it was early forms of Banasite. But in the imagery, it's always just blue.
You were turning gems into Banasite.
Somehow.
As a component, I imagine?
No, I believe that was the goal.
To just make it Banasite.
Yes. Well, Banasite is extremely useful.
Of course.
I also don't believe I called it Banasite. We called it Azurium.
That makes sense. Blue.
Yes. It was very important for summoning demons.
I can imagine that that would be in great demand then.
Yes. Yes, it would be. I must have found a way to make it permanent.
I can see how that would help you scale the ranks of that society.
In my memory, when you see that desk with the symbol on it, do you see any Azorial? Any Banasite?
Yes. I remember pricking my finger with some in a memory. It hurt.
Yes, it does.
You were imprinting it in the lines you were carving into the table.
What do you know about the Nightingale?
It was a ritual of some kind, an expulsion of magic so great that it marked the fabric of the weave itself. Something 400 souls.
Nightingale's rebirth.
A Mythalar was involved.
Yes, it would be. To channel that much magic, that would make sense.
Kushen wanted a tap of it as a favor, I recall.
Yes. I think I've remembered something.
Really?
Really. It is not safe for us to go to Ceres.
No. Well, at least not without precaution. Is there something in Ceres?
I believe so. I believe that is where our, well, arcane battery of souls is.
The Sacrarium?
Yes.
Okay. You think you might remember where it is?
It would be under the town that I sacrificed.
Tuskel's Lane.
Yes.
The crater, basically.
But it would be dangerous. I remember setting traps, but I don't know how many. I remember setting guards, but I don't know what kind. At least one is an iron golem.
Okay. What happens if we get to the Sacrarium?
We find the contract.
That would be immensely useful.
That is where I placed it.
And potentially other things. Does the Sacrarium still have souls inside it? Or is it empty?
It would be empty because you failed.
The Nightingale's rebirth was a failure.
Yes. I made it. Oh, fucking blasted. I can't remember. It was Malcolm was involved, and I made it, and it didn't work, and it kept not working, but it worked on me.
It worked on you.
There's nothing. You see, she kind of slumps her shoulders and rubs her head.
Of the Nightingale's rebirth, it had to have taken place sometime after you came to the surface.
Of course it did.
Sometime, as in maybe centuries. Which makes me wonder if Malcolm was alive at that point.
He was a druid. Could be.
Sure. They tend to live longer if they're good. And you said he was very good.
He was profoundly powerful. That's why I think his punishments and such were just a mechanism to see where he was, what we were, what I was.
Why would he willingly get captured to be tortured?
I don't know. I didn't care.
Something to do with you specifically? Or were you just a coincidence?
He said he found me there, and that I was worth saving. Which is abominable by my perceptions, as I remember the sorts of things I did.
I think he saw potential in you. The person you could be, not the person you were.
Perhaps. I think as you grow in power, well, firstly, you'll become a better person than I ever was. But secondly, if you have the means to deal with this contract, and cleanse yourself of Hushen, and the mistakes that I made to try and... I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to do. I don't believe I was just trying to become immortal. It's too mundane for me.
Malcolm was involved.
Yes. I wish I knew why.
doesn't seem like the type to go sacrificing 400 people for something. But I don't know him.
She's like wringing her hands together and rubbing her arm. I know I loved him.
I know you did. I felt it.
I know I've never loved anyone like him since. Or at all. People I counted on, people I trusted and respected, but never loved.
Did he love you too?
I believe it.
I do too. I only saw him that one time, but I believe it.
Okay. I'm going to ruminate on what we've discovered.
Okay.
I'm going to try and remember that blasted desk. I'm going to try to remember why Malcolm was involved. As for you, you need to get better at Arcana.
I know.
You need to learn to read these spells so that we can work together on this. And perhaps a little bit of physical training would not be out of the question.
I asked her to help me out there, so hopefully she takes me up on that.
I don't ever recall being quite as slow as you are, so...
I spent a lot of time,
being pampered.
Remus.
Yes.
He wouldn't let me go outside without an entire detail of
I'm not blaming
supervisors.
you, Lorna. I'm not blaming you. But you are in a place that trains mercenaries.
Right.
If there is any place that you can repair this issue, you should, and it's here.
Right. I agree.
Become more dexterous, become more hardy, and learn magic. And as you grow stronger, we'll figure out what the hell I was doing.
We'll put the pieces back together.
And maybe by then we'll become whole again.
What do you think that will look like?
I will finally be able to rest.
I hope so.
And you will no longer be haunted by terrible memories.
Some of them aren't so bad.
I don't want the reins anymore. I handled it very poorly when I was in charge. Alright, try to get some sleep, Lorna. Are you sleeping right now? I don't understand this.
No idea. I don't either. Yeah, who knows?
Okay, well, we'll talk more.
Okay.
Good night. And you watch as she turns and sits, and suddenly she's sitting on an old wooden chair, and there's a desk in front of her.
Oh, alright.
And she's like staring at it.
Girl boss. Figure it out.
It's the same desk from the memory. It's just blotchy and not complete.
The part she can't remember.
Yes. You can see her like running her fingers on the wood aggressively, trying to figure out what was there, like from the memory of touch.
Man.
Are you still here? Go to bed.
I'm trying. Close my eyes.
Okay. As you go to sleep.
Sleepception.
Sleepception. That is where we were going to stop.
Fuck.
Session.
Oh my god, I almost killed Nore.
You did almost kill Nora.
Oh my god, that would have been so sad.
That was you did a lot of damage.
Yeah, it was like you would have counted that.
The ice was a crit, so it would have doubled as well.
Yeah, and I rolled like a 10 with 2d6, so that'd be 12, 22 plus
Like 16.
there you're 16, so 30, 40 points of damage.
Yeah.
That would have almost killed Lorna.
So, I hope you had a good time playing tonight. You
Uh,
made a new spell. That's exciting. And you maybe
yeah,
discovered some more about your history.
I sure did.
And
Holy shit.
to everyone listening, I can't wait to play with you again next week. And we love you.
Ah,
And we'll see you next time.
ah.